Hello and welcome to Rediscovering Childhood, a podcast that brings you lots of practical information to help you become a more conscious parent. This podcast is brought to you by Discovery Playtime, an Irish business that provides high-quality educational and sensory toys to help your children develop skills through play. Visit discoveryplaytime.ie or download the app to get inspired. Today we're joined by Mary Adams and Shannon. Hello.
Hi.
Hi Mary, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Nice to be here.
Good. So Mary has a background in foster care and social work. So that's what we'll talk about today. And Mary, if you want to share a little bit about your own journey and background.
Sure. I'm currently a fostering team leader at Fostering First Ireland. So that means that I manage a team of social workers and I supervise them. So I've been at Fostering First for 11 years. The first 5 years I was a link social worker, so I was working directly with foster families. And in 2017 then I became the team manager. So I support and supervise fostering social workers who are working with foster carers. So that's my current role. I've been... 11 years, like I say. Before I came to Fostering First Ireland, I worked with what's now called TUSLA, was HSE at the time. I was a child protection social worker for 7 years. So I worked in Tala and the Crumlin area, working with vulnerable children and families in the community, children in care, and supporting children in their journey in care. So that's what I did for 7 years.
What made you want to do that? What was your initial passion that brought you into wanting to start that career?
I suppose I would say that I was a social worker before I really knew what a social worker was. I suppose during secondary school, I had an interest in, social studies, pursuing kind of courses like that when I was looking at what I would do in college. So I picked social science and UCD. So I did that for 3 years. And during that, then I would have done some courses in social studies. I took a year off then after getting my degree and I worked as a housing welfare officer in Dublin City Council, which I was working on the homeless and the travellers team. So I did that for a year, and during that time, I applied to do my Masters in Social Work specifically, which is a 2-year full-time course in UCD. So I did the 2-year social work course, which is, you come out of professionally qualified social worker. So that was how I got into social work, not really knowing where I was going, but I felt I wanted to work with people who were having difficulties in life. I initially had thought of maybe being a doctor when I was younger. Then I thought, actually, no, it's more kind of people who are having social problems that I was pointing myself at. So that's how I ended up being a social worker, really. And it has just felt like the right fit since then. It's never felt like, oh, is this for me? Or certainly had hard days when I'm thinking, can I do this? Can I keep doing this? But worked through all those hard days. And it always just felt right. I did enjoy working as a child protection social worker, hard as it was, like just incredibly hard work. The people who do that day in, day out are just amazing people in a really hard system. And through that, I suppose I would have worked with a lot of children who are in foster placements. And I just really, could see the difference that foster carers were making to these the lives of these children, how they were helping them to heal and recover from their trauma and set them on a really nice path in life and give them the love that they weren't necessarily getting or the safety that they weren't getting. It's not that children hadn't been loved before. So then I thought, actually, I'd really like to work more directly with people who are foster carers, and that led me then to working with Fostering First Ireland.
You said it some days can be very, very hard. Mm-hmm. How do you separate what happens in work from your own personal life?
I don't know how to answer that. I don't know how to answer that.
Or can you even do that?
I mean, people, you do get asked that a lot. Lots of people have really difficult jobs, lots of people have really difficult jobs. I guess what I can say is that I just can, and I've been able to keep going. Lots of people, come into social work and find maybe it's not for them, or try a few different types of social work. Like child protection social work is probably the one most people think of, the most stereotypical type of social work. You see on the TV and you hear in the news, social services, things like that. But there's lots of different types of social work. But for me, this just felt right, and it felt like something I could keep doing. When I had hard days, I was like, you know what? It's nearly Friday, I'll have a couple of days off here, let's just get through this year and see what next year brings. And then next year would come and I'm thinking, no, I'm getting better at this, I'm managing better, I can do this. there's lots of systems within the job. Everybody's got a social supervisor or team leader. So you get supervision regularly, peer support, just having a coffee with someone you share your office with, like just talking it through, just going for a walk, just clearing your head, really thinking like, okay, it was a hard day, but what did I achieve today? Like, have I made a difference? Have I not made a difference? What could I do better tomorrow? So just learning and reflecting all the time. So yeah, like, what? I like to garden, I like to walk, I like to talk to my husband, I like to watch TV, read, listen to a podcast, all those little things that just help me shut my mind off and remind me, that there are nice parts of life. Yes, it's hard and I have seen and heard and, awful things, but I need to keep myself going. So I need to be able to let myself enjoy things that are nice and relaxing. And that's okay. And it's okay for me to enjoy those things, even though I know there's kids not able to enjoy those things.
What's the process for fostering a child? What would be the first step for a parent who is wondering, is that for me?
Yeah, for me, I would say it starts, when you first become aware that there are children who need help. For me, I had such a lovely upbringing, really nice, stability, security, no worries, no responsibilities, like a mum who was really present, really emotionally engaged with me and all of my brothers and sisters. She enjoyed being a parent. She was lovely. And that made me able to kind of look around and think, not everybody has this. I can remember children in my class from a little age. For whatever reason, I wouldn't have understood at the time. They were coming in without lunch. They were coming in without coats. They were coming in late. And something from such a young age just made me feel sorry for them, I suppose, and worry a little bit about them, not understanding what it was about. So for me, I kind of think it started like way back when I started noticing that there was other people who didn't have, I suppose, what I would consider now a very privileged upbringing. I come from a very ordinary background, but to me, ordinary is golden. I had dinner every day. I got to school every day. I had a warm bed. I had, birthdays and Christmas, all that lovely stuff.
It's the little things we take for granted, isn't
100%.
it?
100%. Like I would, I say privilege is having all of those things. It's all the little things. Like it's a parent who's really minding you and protecting you. Things so you're not aware of responsibilities and worries. So yes, an ordinary life to me is very privileged. So for me, that's where it started. Noticing kids around me who didn't have those things. And I guess it just stayed with me. I can still picture those kids. I still think about them sometimes. So that's, to me, I think where it started for me when I was this, little, 5, 6, 7, 8, noticing these kids in my class. Then it went out of my mind because I just got on with being a kid. I had a nice life and I lived it. Pursued social studies in college and things like that. And fostering, when did we get into fostering? I suppose it probably started then with conversations with my then boyfriend, now husband. He had similar kind of motivation and values, wanting to help, not sure what that might look like. Whilst we both come from big families, neither of us felt like we wanted to have loads of birth children of our own, although we do. But it was never a case that was only how we were going to have a family. We felt we could have a family in different ways. And we obviously knew about fostering and children in care through social work and college. I also have an aunt and uncle who fostered. So they would have fostered, I would have grown up with their foster children coming and going. So I kind of knew things like that. I'd seen things like that growing up. So for me and my husband, we felt it was something we were definitely going to do at some stage. And then he started it by saying he had seen an ad or something in the media about foster carers being needed. And we made the call then. And that's 14 years ago.
Wow.
So that's how we got into it. So for me, I would say, I feel like as a foster carer, I would say it starts in your heart and your mind whenever you first become aware of kids that need something and you start to think, have I got something to offer? Do I meet the requirements? Like, is this something I really want to do? And then, it starts with a phone call. So you pick up the phone and you talk to, for FFI, it's Jess Mooney, and she'll talk you through the requirements. I mean, the basic ones, I suppose, for anybody thinking of fostering, you need to be over 25. You need to have a driver's license, a spare bedroom in your home, and if you do have children of your own, that your youngest is over 3. Once you meet those requirements, give FFI a call. There is an assessment. There's checks that have to be done. Once your assessment is completed, that gets presented to what we call the Foster Care Committee, which is with TUSLA, and they will consider the report that your assessing social worker puts together and make a decision about your suitability. And we want and need people from every background. We need, we've got foster carers who are single, who are empty nesters, whose children are still young themselves. And we've got people from all the different communities that we've got here in the country now. We've got same-sex couples. You don't have to have parented to foster. Everybody has something to offer. So it starts with a feeling that you want and could do it, and then pick up the phone and we'll talk you through the rest of it. The assessment takes about 6 months, start to finish. And once you're approved, then you come over to, I suppose, my side of the house, the Link social worker side of the house. So the assessment is done by the assessment team. And once you're approved, then they come under them. There's 3 team managers. So we have the country divided into 3 under FFI. So if you live in my area, you will be allocated to one of the Link social workers on my team. And that's when the real work starts, in terms of we look at what would be a good match to your family, based on, lots of different criteria: the age of your own children, your own preference, your own experience, different things like that. And then we look at the referrals that come into our placements team. They come in every day, every week, lots of referrals from the children in care TUSA teams. And we start looking at what would be a good match. And then we start talking about what that would look like. And that can happen quickly. It could be we get a call this morning and we've got that child in placement by the end of the day. Or it could be we've got a week or two's notice, depending on what the scenario is for that child. And we can have pre-placement meetings with TUSA, with the foster family, and we can start to think about it, look at school, what things will they need, will this work? And we can do what we call a transition. So, there can be little meetings and conversations on video calls maybe between the foster family and the child and their child social worker. And then pick a day and the placement goes ahead, and that's where the work starts.
So it's actually a really individual process, that you like matching the child to the family and trying to make sure that it's the best fit for everyone going forward.
It's hugely important to get the right match. It's hugely important. I mean, this is the whole foster family's life, and this is this whole child's life. It's all day long, 24/7, 365 days a year. It's not, well, I could manage for an hour or two. It really has to work. The match is so important. Now it's hard to get the match right. It depends how much we know about the child. It could be the child's first admission to care, so we may not know a whole lot about them. And again, with the foster family, when it's their first placement, you don't really know what you're doing until you're doing it. There's only so much we can do to prepare people. It's the moment that the social workers drive away and you're at home now and you've got this little kiddie looking at you that you're going, oh, right, now is when it starts. And there's the hard days and there's teething problems, but that's like with anything that you do in life. And that's why FFI, we provide a lot of support to our families to help them through those early days. We've got support groups. We've got specialist support groups for new families, particularly, for families who have particular types of children trauma with their children. There'll be local support groups, so that foster carers meet up with the other foster carers in their locality on a monthly basis, so they can talk through maybe the challenges they're having, the successes they're having, get support from each other. And then get a lot of support from their Link social worker. Link social workers will be visiting fortnightly, monthly. We've got our out of hours is a 24/7 service, so there's always a social worker on call 24/7 every day of the year. We've got training, we've got a therapy service, we've got a children's services, so there's social care workers, and we've got an education support worker, all within FFI, who will offer a huge amount of wraparound support to families. We've got a therapy service, so all of our foster carers and their own adult children have access to therapy through our service. That will cover you from the very start of your fostering till the day you decide you're finished your fostering, and maybe a bit after if it's a difficult ending and you need some more support.
What could be the reasons you decide that it's finished? Is it because of the child, or it could be it's...
Yeah, I mean, from when you start, some people, their first placement gets, that child will stay with them, until they age out at 18 or 19, and they have their own life plan then, whatever that might be. Other foster carers do short-term or emergency type fostering. So the plan might be that the child would only need to stay for a week or two, or it might be that they just need a bit of respite. So things might be challenging in their full-time foster placement, so everybody needs a bit of a break. And some foster carers do provide, short-term placements for children who don't need to be in care forever. They just need to come into care for a couple of months. So there's lots of different types of placements as well. It's not all a child comes day one and they're there then until they're, you know, independent and adult. There's lots of different types. And, you know, that's when, you know, that's relevant when I was talking about matching. You know, it depends what different foster families will come in and say a long-term placement would really suit us, or we don't want to commit to long-term, but we can do lots and lots of short-term. That's what we will. You know, so it really does depend. When you ask why would a placement end, sometimes it might be the plan that the child only needs a couple of months in care, like their family are having whatever difficulty at home and they need some support to get things back on, you know, get things working well enough and safe enough for children to go home. That's ideal. That's what fostering should be in an ideal world, that children can come into care when they need to, their parents and their birth family sort out whatever their challenges were, and the child can go safely home. That doesn't always happen though, and sometimes children do need to stay in care long term. Sometimes, you know, with the best will in the world and all of the support available, it is just becomes overwhelming and too challenging for some foster families to keep going. They can bring the child so far but find that they just can't go any further. And that's really difficult for everybody. I think social workers will be there to support them through that, to help them come to those decisions, to maybe see what supports might make it more doable. Is there anything that we can do to help you keep going with this? Because it's very traumatic for a child to come into care and then to be moved. It's very traumatic. So we try to avoid moving as much as possible. But look, it does need to happen, and this is the reality. This is a very, very hard thing to do. And then some foster carers, you know, they'll foster for 10, 15 years and it's, you know what, we've done our bit now. Like, we're quite happy now to what we would call retire from fostering. Or they might stop doing long-term placements and might do a couple of years of just doing respite, very short-term placements to continue doing it, but without that long-term commitment. We've got lots of foster carers who that. We've got lots of foster carers, whilst they don't, they've come to the end of their kind of full-time fostering at home, but they're still very involved with our agency in terms of, you know, supporting other carers, talking about what fostering is, promoting fostering, you know, talking to applicants. And we've got some of our foster carers are very involved in some of the training programs that we offer. They'll talk about their experiences, what they've learned, what has worked for them, what has been a challenge for them. So, you know, when foster placements end, there's no one easy way. There's no one reason why they end. It's just for lots of different reasons. Some of them are for good reasons, because the child has now able to go home, and that's lovely. And sometimes it's because they've reached adulthood and they're going to college, or they're moving out, or, you know, whatever their path is. And sometimes it's because the placement has run its course. The foster family don't feel they're able to meet the needs anymore, or the child themselves is feeling, this isn't working for me. I want a different, you know, setup. I want to be closer maybe to where my birth family are from. I want more access, things like that. So there's no easy answer to that.
Is that where they would go, usually children on emergency care? Would they go to short-term foster families?
Well, yes and no, I suppose. I suppose the thing with emergency, if we get a call and a child needs to come into care today, the thing is that we probably won't know a lot about that child. The social workers working for TUSA may not know a lot about that child, you know, their needs, what access is contact with their parents, visits with their birth family. If we don't know an awful lot about that child, there's not a lot we can tell the foster family. So rather than us saying, yes, absolutely, we'll place them with this family forever or for as long as they need it, what we'd say is, okay, let's do what we call like maybe a 10-day emergency placement. So the foster family will agree to take the child for 10 days to give TUSLA a chance to figure out what's the plan for this child. If a child comes into care on an emergency basis, they may only be in care, have a court order or a voluntary agreement from a parent for a short period of time. Social workers need to, the TUSLA social workers need to, have meetings, figure out what's the, can the child go back? Is it safe? What needs to happen for this child to be able to go home? So they're figuring that out all along. So emergency places provide a place of safety while TUSLA figure out what this child needs.
And that's always someone's home.
Yeah, so that would be a foster family home ideally. Yeah. So there would be foster carers who, are able and experienced and have the right type of training that they're able to take in a child not knowing an awful lot about them. So it wouldn't be for every foster family. Yeah. And certainly wouldn't be something that we would recommend for brand new foster carers either. I think it's good if you have a good bit of experience under your belt and a good bit of knowledge, and you're in a position to be able to accept a child in whatever scenario that happens. I think that's easier for people who've got that bit more experience. Yeah. For newer foster carers, we tend to take our time try to find those places maybe that we've got a little bit of time to plan it, because it's quite nerve-wracking, I think, particularly when you're brand new, to take it on. It's a lot of responsibility. It's a huge commitment. It's not just the child, you're taking on a whole team of people. Children come with their own social workers. There's birth family that, whilst foster families may not have contact with the birth families, they're certainly a huge part of that child's life, so that's something that the foster family have to be able to accept. So there could be, there'll be siblings sometimes. There could be other foster families who are fostering your child's siblings, and you have to know they're a part of your family and your family life. So it's a huge undertaking. There's a lot of people involved, and there'll be people coming and going from your house and ringing your phone and asking you to come and meet them. And so it's not just the child, it's everybody in that child's life. And when a child first comes into care, there can be a lot of people in their life. There could be guards involved, there could be therapists, doctors, nurses. If it's a baby, you've got public health nurses, all that stuff that new babies come with. It's a lot.
What's the most rewarding part of fostering children? I can see already how much you actually learn and grow as a person.
Yeah,
that's for sure. But what would be the most rewarding side?
Sometimes it's big things and sometimes it's little things. It's everything. It's every part of, and it's all the things that parents find rewarding about being a parent, all the milestones that children meet. But I suppose for children who are coming into care, they're coming with a lot of trauma. They don't know how, they don't trust adults. They don't know what safe love is. A lot of these children, they have, they don't have even daily routines, like of, that there'll be breakfast, that we'll go to school, that there'll be something nice to eat after school, then there'll be homework, and then we'll relax and play, and then we'll have a bath, and then there'll be stories and bedtime and pajamas. They have no experience of all of those things that we all take for granted. So to see a child really able to, grow into that routine is just so rewarding. It's so lovely to see a child learn to relax, learn to trust a little bit, and how do you know your child trusts you? They're starting to make eye contact with you. They'll ask you for help with something. Children who have a lot of trauma and trust, have had their trust broken and have had adults who've been scary in their life, they won't ask for help. They'll find it very, very hard to ask for help or make themselves vulnerable. So, sometimes, and I've had this experience at home, a child falling and hurting themselves. Your own child falls and hurts and they burst into tears and mammy, and they'll come up and crawl on your lap and they'll look for a hug, pat them on the back, everything's grand, and they'll go back to play. A child in care, that is a hugely challenging. That won't happen necessarily. I've had children in my care who will fall over and I can see that they've hurt themselves, but they either don't feel it or don't have enough experience of having a trusting adult who cares to respond to them. So for me, it can be small things like a child falling over, hurting themselves and looking to me for comfort. That's huge for a child in care. That's huge progress for a child in care as far as I'm concerned. Eye contact, a smile, coming in from school and showing me a picture that they've drawn that day, because they know I'm there and I care, and I'm going to be like, that's brilliant, I love it. For a child in care to get something like that is huge. So to see your child coming in and showing you something that they've done in school that day, is brilliant. Compared to their previous life, lots of the children that we get referred in are coming from homes where, there isn't an adult always present, or there isn't an adult always emotionally and mentally present. Children are coming in to care because their families are really struggling. There could be addiction or mental health or both, domestic violence, homelessness, any range of social problems that you hear about every day. And sometimes it's all of them together. It's the really small things, just fitting into what we would consider a very normal, ordinary day-to-day family life. It can be very difficult for children to fit into that, and it can take a long time for them to trust and settle into it. So for me, it's the small things that are hugely rewarding. And of course, it's lovely to see your children getting invited to birthday parties, deciding they'd like to go to football and going to football and winning a match. I mean, those are lovely in any parent's life. Mm-hmm. Children that, every year when our set of young people at Fostering First Ireland, the ones that they make it to junior cert, they make it to leaving cert. I mean, those are huge milestones for anyone, all of us. But when we think of our children who have come from difficult backgrounds and have had a difficult journey through care as well.
It's a broken self-belief as well, and being able to achieve that and be like, I did it. I made it. I did that myself.
Exactly.
It's huge. Yeah.
And that they've given themselves a real chance now, like in life. They've given themselves a nice platform to look at maybe going to college or get an apprenticeship or a job, or, that they have a chance and a nice life.
Is there support available as well once the foster parents are finished, say they're 18 or something? Is there support available?
Yeah, there is. There's lots of worries, and you hear lots of things in the media about children at 18 just being kind of left. Like that's not the case. There are aftercare services run through TUSA, so there are specific teams within TUSA to look after children who are aftercare. So that's children who are 18, and that starts ideally at around 17 and a half. Planning for that. What's going to happen? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What's your foster family's role in that? They don't have to leave their foster families. Like, that's very much a case-by-case decisions between the foster family and the young people themselves. Lots of young people really want to go home, want to go back to their own communities, back to their own birth families. It's just a very strong pull and a draw, which I think we could all understand. And for some young people, that's fine now that they've got a plan for themselves, like they'll do okay when they get back. Other children stay with their foster families, as any birth children will, till they're 23, 24, 30 years of age these days. They'll go to college, they'll get work, they'll figure out their paths the way any of us figure out our paths with the support of our families. That's fine. Other children, go into semi-independent type living situations. So it might be a flat in a building where there's some staff and other young people at a similar kind of life stage and life scenarios. So that could be kind of semi-independent aftercare type setup. So there's lots of different paths. There are sad stories, and it's not to minimise. There definitely are scenarios where the relationships between the foster family and the children can break down over those years, and the young person just wants to leave foster care. They've had enough of being in the system. It's hard to be a child in care. They've got social workers and people asking them questions and talking to them about hard things. And
what would be their option then?
At 18, they can make up their own mind. They cannot be, you can't force an 18-year-old to do anything. So it's about giving them options, and, they will make their own choices about that. So as long as they're, if they're in full-time education or, some kind of training and things like that, like there'll be aftercare services to support them. And they can certainly stay in their foster families and be supported by aftercare services. So it's case by case. There are supports and services available. Nothing's perfect. Nothing's 100%, but there are services that are there for children who want to take those, young people, I suppose, who want to take those services. They're 18 at that stage.
Yeah, I suppose there's a lot of disruption as well in education and going to school and changing schools. So how would you, is that the support as well, emotional support and therapy, and to make the transition as easy as possible and try to keep up with?
Yeah, it's hard to be a child in the care system. There's, you go from living with your own family, whatever the scenario is, and when you come into care, you'll be placed with a foster family. That may not always be in the same community. It could be in a different part of the country. So, and that comes with everything that's new. So, a new house with new people living there, you have to get used to. New school, new friends, new everything. And that's where we try to limit the amount of moves a child might need once they're in care, because it's so hard to start over every time. Even for adults to have to start over is hard. So for children to have to start over is really, really hard. So there are supports. At FFI, we've got our children's services. So we have an education support officer who can work with the foster family, with the child, and with the child's school, so that everybody can understand and support that child with whatever difficulties they might have educationally. And we've got our social care workers as well. So they're trained childcare workers who can work with children directly and who can work with our foster families directly to help understand the trauma that this child has had and how it looks for this child and what kind of parenting responses that they need. So that's a nice support. TUSLA have a whole range of supports themselves as well that can get put in place. So there'll be regular meetings between ourselves, the TUSLA team, and our foster carers. How is this child presenting? What do we think that they need? What would be the best service? And we all work together as a team then to think, okay, this would be the way to go, and TUSLA will look at getting whatever support services the children need. And it's teamwork, And it's teamwork for as long as the child might be there, and we'll have regular meetings. How is it going? Has that worked? Where do we need to go this time? We need to try something different, that type of thing. So there is support at every step of the way. It's just about keeping reviewing it, keep looking at it, how is the child managing? How are they responding? What do they want themselves? Is it the right time? Children need a lot of help to understand what has happened to them, why they have had to be taken from their own family and put in with a new family. How long will they be there? When can they go home? Obviously, is a big question for these children.
I suppose the main trauma comes from, that was my fault, for them thinking that was my fault, I did something wrong, even if that's just being born. But they would take it very personal.
Yeah, of course. Lots of children, there'll be lots of shame. These children will feel they've done something wrong. It's my fault. So you can take a long time to work that through with children, and they really do need help to understand, that for whatever reason, Mammy and Daddy or whomever it was that was minding them wasn't able to give them the type of care that they needed. So they need to just live with another family while the social workers work with the family to make it safe for them to go home. And that could take a little while, that could take a long while, or maybe a day will come when we all have to decide that that's not going to happen, but they will still be able to see their birth family. So and it has to be age appropriate. But there's, TUSA social workers are very well trained. They know how to speak to children, they know how to explain it to them, and they will support them. So whilst our foster families have their own link social worker through FFI who come to support the foster family and their birth children in care will have their own TUSA social worker. So they'll be coming to visit that child, talking to the foster family. We'll all have big meetings together to review and see how it's going. So it really isn't just a child that comes into your home when you're a foster family. All these people come too.
So it's almost like the TUSA worker is like a child's advocate for them as they kind of go along then as well.
That's their job. Yeah.
Okay.
That's their job. So the TUSA social worker, the children in care social worker, they're responsible for that child. So they're responsible to make sure that, making sure that that child's needs are understood, that there's a plan in place. So all children in care will have what we call child in care reviews. So that's on a regular basis. And they have a care plan. So every child in care has a care plan. So it's a written plan of the child's background, what's going to happen for them, how long might they need to be in care, what needs to happen while they're in care, do they need any kind of therapy or counselling or special supports, what was their access plan. So every child in care has a care plan. And you're right, that's a TUSA social worker's job, is to look after that child. So if a child, they will have known that child before they came into care, they will have been the ones who decided it needed to happen and who will have gone to court and provided the evidence to the judge that for a care order, and then they will be the one to look for, find and work with us to decide what might be a good match, and then they stay involved and allocate to that child for that child's journey through care and maybe that child's journey home. So that's the child social worker. So that child social worker stays with the child wherever the child goes, and then at FFI, the fostering link social workers, we get allocated to the foster family, so we stay involved with that foster family down the years, and whoever comes to their home, so we stay with them, and the TUSA social worker stays with the child. So everybody has their own team. It's
that bit of stability as well for them, that there's always that one person that they can help work through no matter what's going on as well.
Exactly. And our foster carers our fostering link social workers work really closely with our foster families. They'll be in their home, every other week. They're on the phone all the time to them. They will really, really get to know that family, what works for them, where their vulnerabilities are, where their strengths are, where they need supports. And our foster carers, really value that support. Their link social worker is the first person that they ring. The link social worker really knows them, so they can really advocate. They will know what will be a good match. They will know when they need support, what type of support they need, when they might need support. So in an ideal situation, there is that one person that will stay with them throughout their fostering. Look, obviously people change jobs and move jobs, so we can't guarantee it's going to be the first social worker you meet for the rest of your fostering. But, we do work to that model as best we can, that there is stability, because it's hard, and you really do need people in your corner who you can rely on and who know you, and who can point you in the right direction and who can spot maybe vulnerabilities before you've seen them yourself. You really do need that at times.
Yeah. So anyone that's now wondering, is that for me, and they want to take that step, what would you say to them?
If you feel it's for you, or you feel it might be for you for whatever reason. For me, it started when I was very little and it grew as I got older. But if you've just become aware of this now and you feel you've got the space and time in your life and you've got your family are supportive of you doing it, pick up the phone and speak to Jess at our office. Or, there's lots of information on our website, on our Facebook page, and we've got an Instagram page. We do fortnightly online information sessions. So that would be Jess, our recruitment officer, with one of our experienced foster carers. It's online. You can log in. There's lots of questions that can be asked. You can listen to the information and you can ask questions and get any answers yourself. So that will, give you an opportunity to really think, this really does sound like something I want to do, something that I can do. Pick up the phone and Jess will talk you through the early stages then of the assessment. So like I said earlier on, over 25, driver's license, room in your home, so a spare bedroom for a foster child, and your own birth children to be over 3 if you have birth children. And from any walk of life. The need for foster carers at the minute is just so high. People will see it in the media. We've got almost 6,000 children in care in this country. We've had a really good track record of always having around 90% of our children in care in this country in foster families. That compares really, really well internationally. But look, times are hard in this country at the minute. People are struggling. So foster carers coming forward or applicants coming forward, the numbers are dropping. So we really do need people, if you're thinking about it, to come forward. Even if you come forward and decide now's not the right year, I need another year, just make the call, find out a little bit more.
Yeah.
At least you've got that information now and you can think about it a bit more over the year. Start to talk to your family members. You will need a good support network. But look, it starts with making a call and saying, come along to an information meeting and just ask the questions, get the answers you want. And then, we'll walk you through the assessment. People will say it's intense, and some of the questions are deep, but we really do need to ask those questions. And generally, people will say, yeah, it was deep, and there was lots of questions, but I can understand why they asked those questions. We expected to be asked those questions. We understand why people are so thorough in their assessments. These are very vulnerable children. It's a big task, but it's people. I would say, it's ordinary people, everyday people who foster.
They're the real heroes.
But you know what? It's just, one of our foster carers said it. She says it in a little video clip when she was being interviewed at some stage. It's just a real human thing. It's a human to human thing. Big humans need to look after little humans. If you feel you can do this, do it. Most foster carers I know, if not all, will say, it is the best thing that they ever did. Some foster carers say, I wish I'd have done it sooner. Look, not everyone has a perfect experience, and some people come into it and then walk away and say it's not for us. That's fine. It isn't for everybody. But I think if you've got it in you, if it's in your heart and it's in your mind, find out more information. Like, I've met foster carers who'd say, it was in my mind for so long, I just wanted to do it for 10 years. I needed to I needed to make sure I had everything I needed to my own children.
It's never the perfect time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like having any child. You think you're ready, and then
you're always waiting for something else, to have more money, to have a bigger house, to have and it's never. No,
you do need to have a bit of space and time in your life. There's no doubt about it. It's
a bit of stability.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's a lot. It's busy. But if you do feel you have those things right in your own life, then do give us a call and we'll talk you through it. It might be that you ring up and through conversations you realise, actually, it's not quite the right time for me yet. But I know in a year or two I'll be in a better position to do it then, and that's okay, and you can come back to us then. But I suppose for me, I'd always say, like, if it's in your heart and it's in your mind and it's something you've been thinking about and you just feel drawn to it, then pick up the phone. You don't have to feel like, I wouldn't know how to help a child like that, or I don't know anything about that. I've never had any experience with social workers or neglect or abuse. I wouldn't know how to help someone like that.
You have so much support.
Yeah, we don't expect people to know that. We'll help you with all of that, and we'll be there from the start, and we'll walk people all the way through it. And we've got all of the supports that we have because we know people need them. So I wouldn't say anybody can do it, but I think anyone who feels like they want to do it can do it.
And you'll never regret making that call as much as you can regret not making that call.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. We would have foster carers say, I wish I'd done this sooner. I've been thinking about this for so long and I was nervous about doing it. But as soon as I picked up the phone, it just started to flow. But yeah, you know, people will see it in media, social media. You know, there is such a need for foster carers at the minute. We have so many children who are needful of foster placements for short terms and long terms and everything in the middle. And everybody can do something different. And we need people from all walks of life because everybody's got something different to offer. Yeah. And all of our children need something slightly different. And we can work with, you know, people from every different background. And there will be a right match.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point as well for anyone listening, that it doesn't have to be a commitment for the rest of your life. It can be something shorter as well, for sure. If that's the reason why you're putting it off. So knowing that, it's definitely a good thing, and hopefully anyone listening will take action and make that call.
Pick up the phone, or, you know, go on the websites if you want to get more information before you speak to somebody, or come along to one of the information sessions online and you can listen and you can hear what people have to say and think about it a little bit more. There's lots of information out there to help people take that next step.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mary. We'll put all the information here to contact
For
FFI, Foster First Ireland.
That's it.
And we'll put your all the contacts if anyone has any questions as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to share your own story on our podcast, please get in touch through our social media. Don't forget to like, share and follow so you'll never miss out on upcoming episodes. See you next time!